I'm Milton. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about community volunteerism. And I actually started volunteering in my community when I was only maybe 7 or 8 years old. Believe it or not, this is a picture of me taken in probably 53 or 54 out of De La Viga Park by the covered bridge, which, by the way, is no longer there. I'm standing in the back. That is not me sitting in the tree, but I'm in the back holding what appears to be a fishing pole. I'm not sure what it was, but this was at De La Viga Park, and probably 53 or 1954. Once again, this was my first community project. Over the years, I've done a lot with community volunteerism. As I told you, I met Governor Pat Brown, or Edmund G. Brown, whatever one would like to call him, about 63 or so, up at UCSC. I was in the Explorer Scouts, and our troop, or post, or whatever they called it back then, was invited to participate in groundbreaking ceremonies for the new UCSC. What Governor Brown wanted to do was to show community interest in Santa Cruz. We were the new students for UCSC. I was probably, I want to say I was maybe a freshman or a sophomore in high school. I'd been going to Soquel High, but a bunch of us got up there with our shovels and stuck them in the ground and took pictures of the Santa Cruz Sentinel, and it was a groundbreaking ceremony for UCSC. After that, I didn't do a whole lot with community volunteerism. I was in high school, mind you. I want to say the next I got involved in community volunteerism was through my wife's brother, Mike Fox. He invited me to join the Santa Cruz JCs. This would probably have been 1968 or 1969, thereabouts. It was right after my wife and I bought our first home. I went to a meeting and got involved in the Santa Cruz JCs. We had a nice time, built a lot of friendships within the JCs, and I was quite active with them over the years. Some of you may remember the Spring Fair. Well, I was more or less the father of the Spring Fair. Bruce Bratton from the Good Times used to write about me quite often, referred to me at times as Hitler. But we did the Spring Fair for the community. We drew a lot of people, and I met a lot of people at the Spring Fair, and that's what it was all about. I want to say that I managed the Spring Fair up until about 1986, and then I aged out of JCs. I became 40 thereabouts, so I had to turn it over to someone else, and they didn't quite share my enthusiasm, and I think if the Spring Fair is still around, it is now operated by the city of Santa Cruz. Spring Fair originated up at UCSC. It was called How to Love the Earth Day. It was a class project. And from there it was moved down to Pacific Avenue. I believe Ron Lau was the first one to contact me. He owned, at the time, Bookshop Santa Cruz. And he had me presented to the Santa Cruz JCs as a community project. Well, I did, and we took it over and we ran it from there. In the Santa Cruz JCs, we also had a fireworks booth for years, a Christmas tree booth for years. And this was just our way of, number one, generating income for our different projects that we ran, because we did housing and remodeling and things for everyone. And they all cost money, and we were not getting money from the city of Santa Cruz or anyone else for that matter. So we had to create some sort of fundraising project to raise money to do what we did best. We worked. We used our hands. After the JCs, I probably got involved in Elks and Kiwanis, Lions Club, Kidney Foundation, you name it, I probably got involved with it. And not that I was finding another place to be or another club to call home, but to maintain my community involvement. And I stayed involved in our communities in Santa Cruz and in San Jose right up through probably where I got hurt in 2000. After that, I was no longer capable of participating in community projects. when my wife and I lived in San Jose, where we moved to San Jose, we were very much involved in the Los Gatos San Jose Chamber of Commerce's. And we did a lot with them. We participated in their golf tournaments, which, as I told you in one of our tapes, I've got that gold golf putter. I won that at Kidney Foundation from winning some sort of a tournament, I guess. But we stayed involved in various community projects. For those of you that are just starting life as adults, it's the community service gives you great rewards. Mind you, great rewards not in the form of payment, but a slap on the back, if you will. Thanks for a job well done. And that's what you get out of community service. I was not what you'd refer to as a religious person, so my wife and I didn't spend our time going to church every Sunday. And not that I had anything really against going to church, other than with Reverend Glenn and Caldwell when I was a kid, but it just didn't fit into what my wife and I were doing in life. Our going to church was our being together on Sunday morning, maybe up at De La Vega Golf Lodge with our children, our two boys, having breakfast, or at the Holiday Inn having breakfast on Sunday morning. We always made it a point to be together on Sunday morning. This is even when I was a wedding photographer. I did my best not to take a wedding that was going to happen before noon. This would allow us to gather our family around, my wife and our two boys, for a Sunday morning breakfast. That was important. That was our family time together. And we did that right up until our oldest son went in the Navy. And I guess that was around 1989, thereabouts. But that was our way of going to church. And we had a good time. My wife and I were not ones who would go away and leave our children. Even once they became adults, we didn't go away and leave our children. We incorporated their interests in everything we did. Junior lifeguard program, we were very much involved. Of course, they were involved in the spring fair. We also participated with what was called Beach Street Revival, which was more for the car people, but our boys had a wonderful time at the Beach Street Revival. And my wife and I had a good time. We went to the dances and, raised money for this and raised money for that. And I got to build my hot rod, which was important. So, do your best to get involved in your community. You're going to meet a lot of people. Your pay is going to be simply a slap on the back and maybe a little, trophy wall for thank you, but, no money. But the thank yous are far more important than greenbacks. I kid you not. And I want to thank you once again, and we'll have another one in probably, maybe 15, 20 minutes to add on. Bye-bye now.